We were on a highway between New York City and Washington, D.C., when my dad caused a car crash behind us. He had braked in traffic suddenly, agitated, his hands shaking. A rapid meter contrasted with the soft indie pop playing in my headphones. On one bitingly cold night, a couple years before the trip to DC, my mind was preoccupied with a song that seemed to play in my head from beginning to beginning endlessly all evening. My father gripped the steering wheel, white-knuckled, breathing audibly weighed down as if each breath was fighting against something in his lungs. My mother said something about the drinks he'd had at dinner, but I was barely listening at this point. I stopped fixating on the earworm in my head, zeroing in on the labored breathing coming from the driver's seat, which circulated in my ears. I had taken to worrying about my father recently after I found out about his Parkinson's diagnosis. Extrinsic ideas had begun to revolve around my family life. Medication, depression, hallucinations. Most recently, drinking problems. Addiction is a hole that you start digging with your own 2 feet because the sand on your toes feels so nice. And by the time you know you're sinking, you're too far down to pull yourself out. While my father could not abandon his sinkhole, I could decide to watch from the sidelines, far enough away that the ground wouldn't give out under my feet. We call performing music playing an instrument, but there was nothing playful about it when I started working over my piano obsessively, pounding out chords until my fingers cramped up. Playing music is the most detached way to be artistic. You can play Chopin or Bach beautifully without ever confronting the festering black hole inside of you. Constantly remaking someone else's chords, Beethoven's symphonious fury or his devotional madness. Translation instead of creation, cartography instead of discovery. The saying goes, face the music, but that's just it. I'm turning my back to myself. This simultaneously single-minded and apathetic philosophy began to eat away at my very core until I hardly even cared about the music anymore. I only cared about not caring. I don't crave or need the freedom of driving, but the idea of being at the wheel brings me back to that highway or that dark winter road. If I could go back, I would tell my father to look at the destruction behind him, the tangle of flesh and steel, to face the music.